I'm Tuesday. I'm an illustrator, so here's some of my work. I graduated last year with a BFA from MCAD in Minneapolis, which was awesome. It was such an amazing experience, and I'm really glad I got to go. It led to a project right out of school with Target, where they asked me to redesign their bullseye logo, like in my own vision. And I mean, what a cool project to get to do right out of school. And they were like, yeah, we could pay you $1,000 to do these like 4 bullseyes. And when you're first out of school, $1,000 is like, oh my God, I'm rich. I'm gonna move to New York and everything's gonna be great. And I was like, $1,000 should last me like 3 months, right? So I'll just go to New York for 3 months. And if it doesn't work, then I can just go back to Minneapolis, and I had a job lined up there if I needed to, doing design work. So it turns out that you can live in New York for 3 months on $1,000, but it means that you have to move with your friend Charlotte and share a bed in the ghetto in Brooklyn. So here's Charlotte and I don't know if you can read it, but it says, "Greetings from Mattress Land, population 2." So, I mean, that was like our room. That's like that. Like a queen-size air mattress and like half a futon, and that was like the width of the room. But I mean, it worked, and it ended up not dying, and staying in Brooklyn for longer. And I guess I just wanted to talk to you guys, especially design and illustration hopefuls, about how to make it work. So I hear a lot of people talk about in speeches, you know, they're asked like, how do you do it? Like, how do you get started? How do you make a living? And I hear a lot like, just be awesome and it'll be okay. And, you know, being awesome isn't usually enough. It's a big part of it, I guess. And there are definitely some people who are just so charming that they can just skate through it and they make amazing work and they just are inherently awesome and everything falls into place magically. But for everyone else, here are some freelance mainstays. So you should just get over being nervous, because that's not going to do you any favors. Talk to everybody. You need to do some serious hustling. You work really, really hard, and most of all, don't be an asshole. Okay. The design community is so tight-knit, and it's such a small pool, actually. Like, see, there must be like millions of designers, but everyone knows everyone, and like my best friend is best friends with, you know, just everyone. So if you pee in the design pool, people are gonna know, and they're gonna tell other people that you peed in the design pool. So maybe I can talk about how you can avoid being an asshole. And usually being an asshole comes out of being insecure or nervous, and it's much better to make pieces like this when you feel super insecure than take it out on other people. This is, I don't know if you can see it, but it's me driving a nail through my hand saying miserable and worthless. And you know, like making stuff like that is really therapeutic, because you're like, I laugh while I'm doing this and I'm like, this is awesome. This is so great. But you know, then you feel significantly less miserable and worthless, and you're less likely to be a total jerk to someone else who doesn't even know what's happening in your world. So if it's not happening for you and you're not getting any work and no one's hiring you and none of the blogs that you really like are featuring you, and then, you know, so you're still feeling insecure, maybe it's time to just make your own venue and make your own community and do something to help sustain the community and enrich it, instead of just waiting for someone else to feature you and being sad that no one else has. So maybe make your own blog that features other new and unique talent, or start your own book series. These are 2 of my favorite independent books. This is Remedy Quarterly at the top, which is run by Kelly Carambula, who's awesome. And the bottom one is Ferocious Quarterly, which is by Nate, who spoke yesterday, Nate and a bunch of friends, and they're great, and it's a great way to showcase new talent and to sort of make your own mark in the community that's not just about you. It's not just about your work, it's about everyone's work and fostering that. Here's another really great project, 50 and 50 by Dan Casaro, who's somewhere around here. And yeah, it's just another way to help foster the community But ultimately, I feel like whenever I'm the jerkiest, at like the height of my jerkiousness, I'm just really unhappy. Like there's something wrong. And you just need to think about what makes you happy. And in the past year, I feel like I've said yes and yes and yes to everything because, you know, you're just trying to like make it work and, you know, like live in your apartment in New York and then maybe have some money left over to do some stuff. But then, you know, in the past 2 months, it's been really easy to be down on myself because I've been so busy and saying yes to so many things that I didn't want to say yes to. Actually, seeing Margot's talk yesterday was really helpful because I felt like that was the part in my life that I was coming to where I needed to start saying no. And I was testing out so many things in the past year, you know, like seeing where I kind of stood, if I wanted to do a lot of editorial, if I wanted to do product. I even ran the New York office of a British illustration agency for a while. And they thought I was qualified for that, so I was like, oh, hot damn, I must be qualified for it. And, you know, it was fun for a little while, and it was a really positive thing to try it out, but ultimately I realized that that's not where I want my practice to go, and that I don't want to be a project manager forever. And even though going to London is really cool 4 times a year. So one thing that makes me really happy and really rejuvenates me is working in my sketchbook. And I feel like whenever I'm not making the work that I want to make, I just haven't been drawing for myself for a while. So doing things that are like really silly and don't mean anything and just are sort of like getting your juices flowing are really important. Another thing that has been important to me lately is pottery. And I've actually done tons of pottery in my lifetime because my mom owns a pottery shop. So I'd always just done it for fun and sort of thought of it as like a craft instead of something that I could ever include in my practice. And in December, I was like, well, I think I really need to make some changes. And I decided that I was just gonna like paint some stuff and then include it in my online shop and then see what happened. And it's been amazing. Like I've gotten all of this great response that I never thought that I would have from doing pottery. And it made me realize that there are no specific avenues that you can take to do the work that you want to do. So, you know, you can do editorial, or you can do product, or you can do pottery, and you can make enough money to pay your rent, and that's amazing. And you don't just have to do pottery, you know, like my good friend Leah Gorin, I don't know if you've seen her work before, but she started like hand block printing these cat dresses and selling them on her Etsy because she was an illustrator, but was really interested in fashion. And she's like, no one's gonna hire me to do this stuff. I have no experience. So just for fun, she started making these cat dresses, which took off like crazy. Like I Googled Leah Gorin and there were like hundreds of girls wearing these cat dresses that are like hand block printed and made by her, and it's amazing. And then just this past week, her anthropology line came out, and she's 22. And I think that's just amazing that, you know, she has no fashion background. This is just a passion of hers and like an avenue that she created for herself. So I'm really proud of her, and I think that's great. Recently, I had a student come and talk to me and wanted me to look at her portfolio, and she had just come back from a portfolio review with like a really well-respected guy in the design community, and he told her that she would never make it in the illustration world and that her work wasn't fit for editorial. And you know, it's really sad to hear because that's not the only way to make illustration happen for yourself. You don't need to do editorial, and if that's not your thing, don't force it. And the girl's work was like amazing, which is the worst part, is that, you know, she was making this like really incredible work that looked like block prints, and she was like experimenting with different ways of printmaking. And I asked her what she really wanted to do, and she said that she wanted to make books. And I was like, well, just make books, like what, you know? But you know, she was like, but no one's gonna pay me to do it. And it's, you know, I think it's really important to have these things that you're passionate about and not ignore them. And you know, like maybe it's not going to make money for you right away, but you know, you should really keep those up, and you know, like maybe you'll make your own books and then you start showing them to people, and you know, kind of like in the last talk, like no one's just going to hire you because you're like, I'm really interested in this. You should show people, and you should really get the momentum going. And Kickstarter is an amazing thing because you can be like, hey, I really love making books and I'm an illustrator, and here's what I've been doing so far. And you know, people get really invested in that, and they want to help you be able to do these things that you love. And ultimately, you know, maybe that person who's just now graduating, maybe she'll just be like huge in the book world, or making books that she wants to make, or maybe she even decides in the next couple of years that she doesn't want to do books and that she does do editorial. And you know, like, fuck that guy for telling her that she couldn't, because, you know, that's his opinion. It's only one person's opinion. So just don't be an asshole, and make yourself happy, work hard, and you'll be fine. Thank you. Yay. Any questions? Yeah.
What do you think was the hardest part about just jetting off with like hardly no money?
Well, I don't have problems taking risks like that, so it's really not hard. If anything, I was kind of stupid about it, and I was like, it'll be fine. And it was fine, but I think that you just. I really believe in positive risk taking, and I think it's the most important thing that you can do for yourself. And you know, like, I wasn't gonna die in New York, you know, like, I had friends out there, or maybe I could have, I don't know. And you know, like, worst comes to worst, I could probably call my mom, you know, and it's not scary. I think just go for it. Anyone else? Yeah.
How do you feel about people who are from the Midwest, go to school in the Midwest, and then ship off to the East Coast and the West Coast? Why did you do it, or why don't you feel like you could have stayed in Minneapolis and been super awesome still?
Sure, I could have been awesome in Minneapolis, but I'm actually originally from Nebraska, so right in the middle. I love Nebraska, and it's one of my favorite places in the whole wide world. And I really enjoyed Minneapolis, and I could have been happy there. It's a wonderful city, but I really wanted to try something new, and I really felt like I was anxious to get out of the sort of hyper ad-centric design world that is Minneapolis, like really into Target and really into like certain like ad agencies that are great, but I wanted to be able to give it a shot. And you know, like, I didn't know if I was going to be able to stay there for more than 3 months, and if I wouldn't have, I'd be really happy to move back to Minneapolis. And I'm not necessarily going to stay in Brooklyn forever, but I'm really happy there right now, and I feel like I've met a lot of people who are, I mean, it's like, it's so amazing in Brooklyn because everyone who's there really wants to be there, because it's really hard to be there. So you really have to want to make it happen, or you just have to leave. So, yeah. Yeah.
How did you go from graduating to
I don't know. Well, MCAT is actually really great at reaching out or having like showcases for alumni, but I'm not entirely sure how they found me. The design community in Minneapolis is really small, so big question mark, I don't know. Yeah, sorry. Anyone else? No? Okay, cool, thanks.
What was the first couple of things you did when you got to New York to start doing the things that you wanted to do?
Well, I mean, one thing that I did before I even got to New York was reach out to people that I had been Twitter friends with for a while, and Twitter is amazing. I can't imagine that anyone here is not on Twitter, but if you're not, you should be, because I actually met Kelly Carambula, who did Remedy Quarterly, on, I think by reading her blog and then becoming friends with her on Twitter, and then I did a spread for her while I was still in school, and then I moved out to New York, and you know, people are just welcoming and they're excited to introduce you to the community. And then Kelly invited me to like an office party, and then I met half the people that I know there, and it's amazing. But after that, after you know, have started building out your network and just reaching out to people that you admire or that are in the field or are your peers, then you just start talking to art directors and really dig and be really relentless with it. I mean, don't like be a total jerk and like hound them, but you know, like really talk to people that you want to work for. And you know, a lot of people think it's really hard to find contacts, but if you want to work in the editorial field, go to a bookstore, grab a magazine, and look in the credits and see who their art director is, and then talk to them. Period. You just, you know, just some Googling. Good. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Was there ever a project that you really, really wanted to work on and you were turned down for it?
That I was turned down for? Usually I don't do project bids. Usually I work with people who they're really excited to just do the project with me. It's not usually like, hey, we're talking to a couple different designers and you know, we're really interested in maybe having you work on this project. There have been a few where I like didn't even realize that I was on a project bid, and then they were like, haha, just kidding, we went with someone else. And they weren't even projects that I really wanted to work on, so maybe it was for the better anyway. Anyone else? Yeah.
You were talking about contacts earlier. Like I'm 45, and when I graduated from college, it was dog eat dog. Like no one would help me. There's no way someone would introduce me to somebody else because it was like that fear factor thing going on with all of us. But do you think that like Twitter and the way that like we all kind of communicate now makes it much more open field for everyone? Like everyone, if they recognize your talent, they're going to be there and hold your hand or introduce you to someone or match you up or.
Well, so, I mean, I think it really depends on where you live too, because in Minneapolis, the culture is a lot different. People are a lot more closed off with their contacts, but in Brooklyn, it seems like people are a lot more interested in sharing, and there are a handful of people that really cultivate that community, like one is sitting behind you. Jesse Arrington does a great job of doing that, and I think it's also really important for you to not just rely on other people to help you make those contacts, but to cultivate that community yourself and really bring other people up with you. So maybe you have a few contacts and you want to share them with friends, because I mean, like, there's so much to go around, and there's going to be even more to go around if you share it and sort of cultivate that community. And you know, like more and more artists will be introduced, and you know, it'll be a lot less stale, and hopefully that'll lead to more jobs, because companies start to see that there's something really exciting going on, and that it's not so singular. It's not just the same 3 people, 10 people, 15 people. But yeah, sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes people don't want to give up the contacts, but I think that at that point you just have to be really hungry and you have to go for it. And you can even, I mean, sometimes this is kind of a douchey move, but sometimes you can go in and you talk to clients, and if you're really like honest and earnest and kind, and you just say like if you're in New York, I'm only in New York for a couple days and I'm really interested in talking to some more people. Is there anyone that maybe you would recommend I go and talk to? And usually they're really willing to share contacts with you. So, yeah.
I think this is a really popular subject of when are you a bitch and when are you an asshole?
Yeah.
And what I want to know is, what is that line for you? And has there ever been an experience where you wanted to cross that line that you knew in your mind was going into bitch territory, but you said no, and that's why you're giving this speech right now?
Yeah.
Because there's something in your mind you haven't crossed that line.
Well, okay, so I think, by the way, I kind of felt like by giving a talk about how not to be an asshole, I was kind of inherently an asshole. But, I mean, I think everyone is a little bit of an asshole, right? And it feels good sometimes to be a jerk to everybody. And it's like candy, you know, it's like really quick and instant, and you're like, haha, I got you. But ultimately, you just have to have a little bit of self-control and not just like eat shit if you have to. And, you know, sometimes that's the best thing to do. And other times, if someone is really, you know, like putting you in a bad place and they're mistreating you, then it's okay to go into bitch or asshole territory. But keep in mind that, you know, like maybe you want to keep that bridge open, but maybe you just want to burn that bridge. Sometimes you just do because, you know, like you don't want to work with them and you really don't care to work with anyone that they know. And that's fine. Sometimes you just don't, it's not a good fit. So, does that answer your question a little bit? Okay, cool. Anyone else? Yeah.
Was there any contemplation, a lot of contemplation when you began saying no, like, or a conversation you had where you were, where you had a more refined sense of who you were, and you're like, where it didn't feel like you're missing out on opportunities for saying no?
You know, I feel like that's been a really recent thing for me. And like I said earlier, I was super excited to hear Margot's talk because I was like, how do I say no? What's the best way to say no? I think I just sort of reached like a come to Tuesday point in my life in the past like 2 months because I was like, what is wrong? Why am I so unhappy? And why am I not making the work that I want to make? And then, you know, I cried and I was angry and I was probably an asshole to lots of people that I love. But then, you know, like ultimately, once you get past those stages, you can't do anything but be brave and just say no, you know, and like think about, you know, like, is this project that I'm doing making me happy? Can I end it? Can I end it in a way that's positive? And actually, I recently quit my job as project manager for that creative agency, and I think it was like a really good step for me to just identify that that was something that I needed to say no to. And sometimes there's no eloquent way to say it. You know, you just like kind of get mouth diarrhea and you're just like, I can't anymore. But sometimes, you know, like you have those moments of clarity and you're like able to express everything beautifully and everything works out great and you're still friends, you know. Anyone else? Cool. Thanks so much.